Hello, beautiful people. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Honest Am here, the creator and writer of the Honestly Sis newsletter, and I am here for another P-Vally review, Season 2, Episode 205, White Knight. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, guys, you already know if this was an official podcast that had the blessing of Katori Hall and stars, I will actually have on this week, we will have on Miss Katori Hall herself. I actually been trying to save Katori until the end, but actually I just feel like this would be a perfect episode for her to come in. Just because I have so many questions. One, the first question is, I want to know, like, why this episode? Why did she decide to tell Miss Mississippi big backstory in the middle of this season? This was probably like the first time she had an episode that was like entirely surrounded around a character. And so I would just want to know, like, why are we telling this story right now? What was her intentions for it? Also, since we're in the middle of the seasons, is this season unfolding the way that she wants it to unfold? How has she been doing with the fanfare? And of course, like, how are we looking forward to the rest of the season wrapping up towards the end? Of course, the next person that I would have on is Miss Mississippi herself, aka Sharon Thornton. And again, I'll just ask her, how has it been playing Miss Mississippi? What was surprising to her about Miss Mississippi coming to age story or backstory? Was there anything that, shocked her? Did she know that Keyshawn came from money, or that, Keyshawn dad pretty much left his mom for her stepmom, and what was that about? And then also I would want to know the story of how did Keyshawn end up coming to live with her dad and not staying with her mom? Like, did her mom kick her out? Because I noticed that, we're going to get into the episode, but we do know that there was a part of the episode where Miss Mississippi, where Keyshawn ran home and she went back to, her dad's house, and they were just like, no, Keyshawn, you made your decision, you can't come back. And I was just like, so why didn't she call her mom? Like, at no point did she reach out to her mom. So also wanted to know, like, what happened there? What is her relationship with her mom? Going into the plot of this episode was all about the creation and the rise of the legend that is becoming Miss Mississippi. We open up this episode with her talking to Guwap about to get this hair deal. She's having, this Legends night, and they're giving her flowers. Like, they're not even having a little murder perform at this, so this is not a part of the Dirty Dozen tour, but this is literally just, Keyshawn getting her flowers. And as she's getting her flowers, Katori took this moment to kind of tell us about, where she been, how she became Miss Mississippi. And also there was a line that was said in the in the monologue of Uncle Clifford. That's also something I would want to ask Katori about, like, why did she choose to have Uncle Clifford do the voiceover, like the whole structure of it kind of felt like a play. And I also want to know, like, will she ever do the play again? Because I'm just like, when she do episodes like this, I'm like, girl, like, I just want to see the play. Like, you need to go ahead and be like Tyler Perry and come get these coins. But anyway, so this whole episode is about the creation of the legend Miss Mississippi. And in the voiceover, Uncle Clifford, she said, legends are built and they are built and molded over time and pressure like diamonds. And so this is showing us how Keyshawn became who she is, and ultimately who is she going to become. Like, I feel like this whole episode left a cliffhanger and being like, who is Keyshawn? Who is Keyshawn going to become? Like, will this be the end of this whole Mississippi run, or will this just be the beginning? So let's go ahead and get into these themes of the episode. The theme of these episodes is, I came up with 3 of them, with the miniature theme of colorism. But I would say our major themes of this episode is hair, dads, and devils appearing as angels. As we opened up, as I said in the beginning, we opened up with Guwap. Is his name Guwap? Am I even saying this right? Let's see. Maybe not. Oh wait, he had to be a regular. Gidges is Corbin. Yeah. Okay, I think his name Guwap. For some reason now they don't have his name on here. we know who we talking about, right? And number 502. So anyways, we're opening up with Guwap on the phone with some investors trying to get Keyshawn this lace front deal. And Keyshawn is really happy. They sent her over like some sample prices, like some sample lines of the wigs. And a part of these wigs is like, it's like a red one, is pink and black one, and then a blonde one. And so she ended up landing on this blonde one. And so the episode opens up with her just being on a pole, and like, they're having this Legends night down in Atlanta, and we have Jocelyn and Gigi and all of these, Jessica Dime, like all of these other legends, other dancers who have made it. And so it also made me think, Bookmark, it made me think like maybe Keyshawn is like gonna get on TV, because also in this when Jocelyn, after the whole dance, and then Jocelyn came over, and in the voiceover again, Uncle Clifford said that Jocelyn was her fairy godmother. So I'm like, so is Keyshawn gonna be on TV, or like is this like maybe we know what's going to happen at the end of this episode. Like maybe she's going to actually reach out to Jocelyn, and Jocelyn is going to hook her up and make her some stuff officially, because the first thing that Jocelyn said to her is that they're always going to see you like a hoe. And so it's like maybe Keyshawn will talk to her. Oh my God, I'm getting the predictions. Maybe Keyshawn will talk to her and like she will help her out. I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's just go back. Then after Keyshawn kind of does her dance, she's on the pole, we have the voiceover, and we say we have to know, before we know where she's going, we got to know where she's been. And so then we get our flashback, and we realize that she met Derek when she was a cheerleader. She was trying out for cheerleading, and Derek is a male cheerleader. They had this whole scene where she tried to stick this move with Gidget, and she can't stick it, but her stepsister came in and she like kills it. And so she doesn't end up making the team, but clearly, her and Derek had a connection, and because he was standing up for her when these black dudes end up playing her, which I say like colorism is kind of like a minor, it's like another theme in this episode. Did I say my 3 themes? Hair, devils appearing as angels, dads, and colorism. And so this colorism kind of coming in because Keyshawn was sitting on the bench, and there was like these guys being like, well, you need to get out the sun, you already look like a burnt nugget, and like they said, this bitch thrown, and like Derek just ended up like jumping into it. The guy spit on Derek, which was like totally uncalled for, and like Derek flew off the handles, beat his ass, and like that's pretty much like how they had their first for real interaction. And so our second flashback into Keyshawn life is that Keyshawn was doing her stepsister hair, again with this theme about hair. She was doing her stepsister hair, and she ended up burning her sister hair piece off. And like in this interaction, we realized a couple of things. We realized that her stepmom looked at hair as though it was a woman, end all be all. Like she put a lot of value and a lot of stock in her hair. And we know this in the black community, like black women, we do not play about our hair. Like we're just very sensitive with our hair, so it will make sense that this is all about hair. And so she pretty much like tell Keyshawn to get out. Like, so we realized that one, Keyshawn's stepmama pretty much ain't checking for Keyshawn. She just was more so focused on like her, getting this rich man. And like Keyshawn just happened to be a part of the deal, but she really don't have any intentions on mothering Keyshawn. Like she doesn't look at her as though like as her child, even though she's technically a child in her household, which that was triggering in itself. But then we also learned that when Keyshawn, her stepmom, was like, you should be a cosmetologist, she's like, my dad would kill me. So like, if her dad would kill her for being a cosmetologist, how did her dad feel about her being a stripper? Like, that's something to think about. And then we also realized that, I feel like Keyshawn kind of got her complex about her hair from her stepmama, because she was like, because Keyshawn was like, well, just, a hair, this, I forgot what she said, like a silk and wavy would do her fit her well. And she was like, she don't need to wear that. She not like you. So again, I feel like her stepmom, I feel like Keyshawn has a big complex about her hair and also her complexion, because remember in the other episode, I want to say last week, when she was doing the tour stop for her lashes, and she was like, do I look a little like Mocha Pecan? Like, you know, so we see like color and hair is like a big thing for her. Next thing about the hair, Derek and Keyshawn end up going on their first date because he ended up saving her from the rain. She said she just got her hair done, it started raining, and then Derek was like, you know, come on, get in, I'll take you home. And then Keyshawn was like, I don't want to go home, and they end up going on this first date at a diner. They end up having Patrice there, which let's bookmark that, because with Patrice working at that diner, I feel like that's Katori showing us that Patrice has been a part of this community for a while. She probably have a lot of connections to people, and that's probably, you know, besides her working at the diner, she used to be at the church. Like, that's probably why her church is so popular, because people are used to seeing her in the community. But anyway, so she's at the diner, and they're having some cheese fries and like pretty much just talking about life, and you know, and pretty much saying it's not a first date, and Derek saying if he would have put her on the first date, he would take her on his boat and all this other stuff. But then Keyshawn asked him like, but the real question is, would you take me home? And then he changed the subject. And so it's like, I also feel like throughout this episode, it was showing like all of these warning flags that Keyshawn kind of ignored. Like, not only did he go above and beyond about like defending her and like beating up those boys, like he like really beat these boys' ass. Then when the boys end up getting suspended and he didn't get in trouble, he really felt justified in that. Like, it showed that he's not used to taking accountability. And then when she told him like, would you take me home, he changed the subject. It was like 3 red flags, and like Keyshawn still was, you know, like she still had this dream or this fantasy in her mind about how this relationship was going to be. Then we're going into this theme about I kind of want to, well, devils appearing as angels. Keyshawn, let's see, Keyshawn swing in. Oh, okay. So Keyshawn, devils appearing as managers. So Keyshawn, Guwap kind of came into the picture as though, you know, he saw Keyshawn talent and like he was going to let her glow up and like he had her back. And, you know, he kept saying, remember when she was like shook about Big T, he was like, oh no, you know, if you ever feeling lonely, I'm going to have your back. And then like he said he was going to extend the Dirty Dozen tour. And he said he was extending it because he was like, you know, I'm trying to make it so where you ain't never got to go back. And so it's like, devils appearing as angels. I also stole this from the very end of the episode, but it's like he came in trying to make it seem like he's this white knight, or like using the episode title, but like he's like has these great intentions, but really we end up finding out like he looked at Keyshawn like a hoe and he just wanted to fuck her, like, because towards the end of the episode, Keyshawn is having an amazing night. You know, she made a shit ton of money. They're going back to the room. They're all just like drinking, having a good time. Remember, Jocelyn already gave her the card to the room to be like, come by. And so, Guwap come over, give them the room keys. And he tells them, like, murder like that, like, I'm excited to go to this party. And Guwap tell him, like, oh no, the party, you know, y'all can't go to the party. This is just for us. And like, he starts showing his character when he was like, I mean, honestly, like, you know, y'all been getting enough off of me and blah, blah, blah. So we already see, like, I mean, from the beginning, he was just on some scurvy shit. But we're starting to see, like, he's starting to treat, you know, Little Murder and Big T differently. And so we're starting to see the cracks in him as a manager. And then eventually we see that Keyshawn goes to the room and she thinks that it's just, you know, they're about to get ready to go to the party. He's not ready, which is like flag number 1. Then flag number 2, he tells her that the wig deal fall through, but then he got her these deals, these stripper heels, meaning that he only wants to keep her in this certain lane. And then he tells her, like, go put on your floss or whatever. And she goes, you know, she's putting on her stuff to look at, she put on her outfit to see how it looks. And then he comes in with a camera to record her. And so, long story short, he tries to rape her, and Keyshawn, thank God, get away. And like the whole time I was just like, no, like, don't do this. Like, I really was rooting for him. Like, he really just broke my heart. But anyway, so we realize that he's not who he appears to be, and that he was like really a devil in disguise. Next, we had Derek, a devil appearing as an angel. Derek comes in. Now, Keyshawn didn't get nobody. Also, a part of this colorism. So, a part of this flashback is not only did Keyshawn not make the team, but they're also preparing for this mistletoe dance. And so, because of the school been getting more black people, the white parents decided that they're going to have a separate dance for their kids. And so it's like the mistletoe and the nigga toe or something like that. And so at lunch they were talking about, like, you know, pretty much what they want to, what dance they want to go to and all of this other stuff. And so we find out that Gitchett and her sister, all of them end up going to the nigga toe, and Derek comes swooping in like a white knight and takes Keyshawn over to the white, you know, mistletoe dance. And like when I was listening to that, it made me think about like how I heard, because I went to a HBCU, so we didn't do none of this like black white stuff, but I know people who go to Michigan State and U of M, and like they actually had like a black homecoming, a black graduation, and it's like in 2006 and 2010, and so it's like shit like that was happening up north, and so I just only can imagine like what the fuck is happening in the South. And it's like you just think, I don't know, it's like you really think that we're evolved as a society because of, you know, we had a black president, and because, you know, there's, you know, LeBron James and Beyonce that exist in the world. But then when you really think about things, it's like, have we really been advanced as a society for real? But anyway, so Derek comes in and he gets Keyshawn, you know, he has this dress, he has shoes for her, like he has it all set out for her to come to this dance. But mind you, he can't even tell her, like, mind you, they're at this dance. Why, y'all? Why was I'm in love with the Coco was in my head? Agent of 1706, like the whole night. Like, I'm like, never have I ever looked at that song like I'm in love with the Coco. Like they was doing it with the slow dances. Anyways, again, expertly done. We got to have a music supervisor on. But anyways, so where was I at? So we were talking about they're going into this mistletoe dance, right? And like Derek, you know, they're having a good time, and they end up getting under the mistletoe, and then this white lady comes and was like fast forward, it's Derek mama. And so it's like flag number 3, 5, 6 at this point, because it's like, yo, we was with your mom and you just wasn't even gonna tell me that was your mama? Like, you just, like, who are you right now? Anyway, so Derek comes in like he's just this white knight, and he, you know, saves Keyshawn from having this night in the house, and you know, he scoops her off to this dance that none of her friends are at. But then we end up finding out who Derek really is, and Derek is racist, and Derek, you know, he comes from racist motherfuckers, and like it should have, like, I don't know, like, why Keyshawn wasn't, like, looking at all of these red flags, but, you know, people want what they want. And it's also, like, with that voiceover, what Uncle Clifford said, like, people want things that are forbidden. And, like, you know, like, you don't think about the worst, especially when you're young. You don't think about, well, what's the worst that can happen. You just think about, like, what's happening and, like, how you want it to feel. And so Derek came in as an angel, but we clearly knew that he was not. The last person, devils appearing as angels. I said that Woody. Oh wait, hold on. Damn. Okay, the last one is Keyshawn Dad. Keyshawn Dad swooped in. Mind you, like this story, I'm like Keyshawn. It's like, girl, your fairy tale is missing a few chapters, and also in that, it's like it made me think about like how us as women, like how sometimes, you know, we create a certain story in our head about the person that we're with, and like how that can. I'm gonna get to that's gonna be my key takeaway. Like I'm gonna get there, but anyways. So we find out that, you know, Keyshawn Dad pretty much got with Keyshawn's stepmom on this plane, but her mama was there. So that just goes to show you, like, her daddy was on some scandalous shit. And I'm putting him in the devil's appearance as angels because he came in on some, I'm gonna take care of you and your daughters, you come live with me. But kind of find out, I think that he was doing something with her sister Alicia, because we saw, like, when they were getting ready for the pictures, and they were about, they were getting ready to go to the dance, and they were taking pictures, and like he came in the middle and was like all over her, and like Keyshawn picked up on it. The sister was visibly like fucked up, and so it's like, what was that all about? And also, when Keyshawn came back home, the mama was drinking and like in her feelings, and was like, he can find another Barbie doll. And so it's like, is she crying about another woman, or is she crying because she know that he messing with her daughter? Like, so again, a key takeaway before we even get there is like about women wanting to be saved. Like, we have to stop that. Like, there's no such thing. This life is not a fairy tale. You're not going to be saved. Last thing, daddy issues. And dads. We see that Keyshawn's dad was just not there for her. Keyshawn ended up getting into it with her stepmom. They were all getting ready to, make the Christmas tree. This is before the dance, but they were getting ready to make the Christmas tree. And the daughters asked, like, oh, so how did you and what's the face get together? I can't even remember Keyshawn's dad's name. But she asked, like, how they got together, and she was like, oh, I just gave him a drink and blah, blah, blah. And, like, Keyshawn, knowing the real story, she stepped in. They end up getting into it. And then we see, like, when Keyshawn was in the mirror, before they had kind of flashed us back to the present, her stepmom was downstairs and was like, if you don't check her, I will, or, if you don't check her, then she got to get her ass out and blah, blah, blah. And so we just see, like, Keyshawn's dad clearly never stepped in. He never said anything. And then when Keyshawn needed her dad to, it's like, on one hand, he got them the place to live, but then it was like, when Derek was beating her ass, he clearly wasn't there for her. He wasn't there for her. And so it's like, Keyshawn probably really don't even have a relationship with her dad like that. And so that shows you, like, how, not having a relationship with your dad, or also not even not having a relationship with your dad, but it's like, us women with daddy issues, like, we really have to be mindful of who we're in a relationship with, because we can find ourselves in repeating that cycle. Meaning, like, say for example, I had a reading once, and the reader told me, like, you have tinted vision. Not, rose colored vision, tinted vision, meaning that I see what I want to see in people. And so, like, I was telling y'all about, like, how you can create a story. I create a story, and then you're that character. And so, like, in my story for a very long time, like, my dad was, like, my character. Like, I was a daddy's girl. I love my dad. My dad was the best thing since sliced bread, blah, blah, blah. Like, you talk to anybody, I'm like, I'm a daddy's girl, blah, blah, blah. But then as I was getting older, I would just realize, like, it was this disconnect, because it was like, I would say all these things, but then I would go around him, I wouldn't feel that way. And then one night I had this dream, and it just made me realize, like, oh, like, I have put my dad on this pedestal. I have, thought that my dad was like the best thing since sliced bread, but the truth is my dad has neglected me half my life. My dad never really protected me. My dad kicked me out when I got into when I got into a fight with my stepmom. And so do you see how me having that image of my dad, like, I look at him as though he is the greatest thing, but at the same time he treats me horribly. So because that's my relationship with my dad, of course, just imagine what's my relationship with men. Meaning that a man can tell me he loves me, he appreciates me, and he can treat me like shit. And I will be okay with that as long as he tell me he loves me, he appreciate me, because that's what my dad did to me. And so it's the same thing with Keyshawn. Like, she was used to being neglected, she was used to being abused, and then somebody coming around and probably being like giving her money or like loving on her, and then she thought that was okay, and then she ended up in this cycle with Derek. And so it's just like this whole episode is just talking about, like, the cycles that we can continue from our parents, and sometimes really start with that relationship with our fathers, whether you are a woman or you are a man. Because on the other hand, we saw Derek, he had a bruise on their first date. he had a bruise, and Keyshawn asked him like, oh, so did that come from, you know, did you run into those football players again? And he made up the story about a cheerleader kicking him in the face, but then we end up finding out after the mistletoe dance when he said, you know, my mom is all bark but my dad is the, you know, is the bite, is that his dad was beating on him. And so from Derek dad's beating on him, he ended up in turn, as we saw towards the end of the episode, Keyshawn finally come home because of the stuff that happened with Guap, and she finds out that her baby, her 3-year-old baby, Derek has been hitting on him because he said, well, that's my dad did that to us, did that to me. And so it's like the cycles that we can have from our parents. And Keyshawn said something before he hit her, like, you know, you're putting scars that can never be healed. I think that I know as a society, let me stop generalizing and just talk about myself. My dad is from the South, from Talladega, Alabama. And like, he always used to, like, he still does this now. He always talks about, oh, when y'all gonna have some grandkids, when y'all gonna have a baby, and da 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 da. Because I'm quote unquote, I'm over 30, I have a degree, I have a good job, and so to him and his country as mine, I should just be having kids. But because of my childhood and because I grew up in, you know, clearly a broken home, I had a stepmom that me and her didn't really get along. My dad kicked me out. Me and my dad didn't have a relationship. Because that is my background, I don't think my dad understand that. I look at bringing a child in the world totally different. And I think all of us have to look at that differently. Like, it's not about just bringing a fucking child in the world. Like, we really have to be thinking about who we're having these kids with. You know, what fucking traumas and stuff is he bringing in? Because just like Derek ended up exploding on her, and he said, I'll do what the fuck I want to do to my kid. That's my kid. Because he got his ass beat, and because he's not healed from that, he's going to do that to his kid. And now she has to make a choice. And I think, like, we have to realize, like, when we are choosing to lay down with people, all of the consequences that come with that. Keyshawn has so many red flags, and that's going to go ahead and take me into our key takeaways. You have to pay attention to the red flags. Keyshawn had so many red flags about his temper, about how he felt about black and white relations, about how his family would have been. He literally was in front of his mama the whole night, and not only did he not kiss Keyshawn, he didn't even try to introduce Keyshawn to his mom. And so we end up finding out that once Keyshawn got pregnant, his parents kicked him out. His parents wasn't taking care of him, and Keyshawn been taking care of his ass since then. And in his mind, he feels justified because he slept with the likes of her. He choked her out when he was pregnant with his kid. He probably doesn't even have a regard for his child because, again, she is mixed. So in his mind, mixed is bad because he comes from racist people. So it's like, there was so many red flags. And I think us as women, we have to do better with paying attention to the red flags. We have to do better. I have this message on my channel where I talk about, you know, we have to date consciously. We have to, if we really genuinely want, if you know in your heart and your mind and your soul that you want to have a family, and you know that you want to, you know, be in a loving home and all of that stuff, you want to get married, if you know that, then why would you get in a relationship with somebody you know don't want to have kids? Why would you get in a relationship with somebody who you know don't even value marriage? And so, like, things like that, like, you have to have conversations to even know if y'all on the same level. And I think sometimes we're not even having conversations because we're just so desperate to want to be in a relationship and to want to be loved and to want to be saved. But the problem with wanting to be saved is that you'll find yourself in situations like Keyshawn, in repetitive cycles of men abusing her, taking advantage of her, trying to use her because they feel like it's owed to them, because they feel like, well, I helped you out. But just like Katori said at the end of this episode, we all have to realize that life isn't a fairy tale. We don't have to keep having people stuck in these certain characteristics and these certain boxes. You can break those fucking boxes. You can change and create your own story, and you can save your damn self. It makes me so sad to know that, you know, Keyshawn has literally been taking care of this man since she left her parents' house. And it's probably because, and the thing is, we know it's because she feels that she deserves it. The first thing that Keyshawn did after she was raped by Guwap, and she went to Woody and she said, "I'm so stupid. I should have fucking knew it." And like, how was you supposed to know, Keyshawn? Like, how you came in like a businesswoman, you did everything correctly, like you did the best you could do. But literally, as soon as he abused her, as soon as that happened, she internalized it. So just imagine what she's doing with Derek. She feels like, oh, I did trap him. He had this amazing life. He was supposed to be, you know, the captain of Ole Miss, and then I got pregnant, and now he has to live this life because of me. And so she feels in some way, deep down inside, that she deserves to have this type of life because of her stepmom, because her stepmama turned her around and said that this is a choice you made. When in reality, her stepmom, her parents, her people, they failed her. She made a mistake. And she came back to say, I made a mistake. But the problem is, her stepmama was so bitter. Her stepmama was so in her fucking feelings, dealing with her fucking trauma and her bullshit, that she couldn't even see that this was a child in need. And honestly, it was really hard for me to watch this episode because it felt so like, it was like a reflection of my life and what I've been through, and just the pain of it. Of your father, you know, not protecting you. This is the one man that's supposed to protect you. And just imagine if that relationship is failed and flawed, how do you have better ones? And it's not saying that you're never going to have it. It's just that we as women, we have to be conscious as we're dating. We have to pay attention to the warning flags and not be so desperate to want to be loved, and to really love ourselves, to really take that time to get to know ourselves and to figure out like what we want and what we want in our world, and like the life that we want to live in our future, and like all of those characteristics, you know, having rich and all that stuff, like making sure that we have that and we can bring that to the table. And when we do that, when we become what we're looking for, it has no choice but to attract to us. And so my key takeaway is like, we have to pay attention to the red flags. We have to stop trying to be saved. We have to know that life isn't a fairy tale. We're not, you know, you don't meet somebody and then happily ever after. The Gerard Carmichael have the best quote ever. There's a reason why fairy tales don't have sequels. Because shit gets hard after, you know, things happen afterwards. And so it's like, we have to realize that, you know, one, pay attention to the warning flags. Two, nobody's going to save us. Three, life isn't a fairy tale, but we do have the power to change our story. We do have the power to save ourselves. We do have the power at any given time to be like, you know what, I don't want to live life like that anymore. And so for us girls that have daddy issues and that found ourselves in relationships after relationships of just trauma and not even just trauma, just of turmoil and just chaos, like, you have to realize by default, we attracted that into our life. And so to stop that, we have to consciously date. We have to date people paying attention to the red flags, making sure that they're evenly yoked. And it's not on some, do he got a college degree? Do I got, not that bullshit, but just like, do I want to have kids? Do this motherfucker want to have kids? I want to get married. Do he want to get married? I want to travel the world. Do he want to, you know, like, you have to have conversations to make sure that you're actually having relationships and not just, you know, sleeping with people. Like, I understand that, you know, we live in a sexualized world, but like, sex is way too intimate to just be fucking with anybody. And like, you don't want to lay down with somebody and wake up and this be the person that's choking you. I was thinking about this, very random, this last thing. Like, I think what's so fucked up about the partner to partner violence is like, that same person that you kiss, that, you know, you're intimate with, when y'all having sex and y'all looking in each other's eyes, is that same motherfucker that looks you in your eyes and like hurt you and like choke you, like intimately choking you and looking you in your eyes, trying to take the life out of you. And it's like, it's just sad, man. Like, this episode, this was a lot. Like, dear Katori, let's just go to the last segment. Agent number 3444. Like, dear Katori, this episode was a lot. I'm gonna be honest, like, this was not one that I was like eager to go back to watch. I actually had to watch the last 5 minutes, you know, the whole Keyshawn and Derek scene with the stuff on mute. Because it was hard. Like, it was just hard to watch. But also, as hard as it was to watch, like, it was necessary, because it just showed me, like, these generational cycles, and like how we just can unconsciously just keep living them. And like, it just was like an awakening for me, being like, you know, like, at least you're doing the work. You know, like, yeah, you know, I had my fair share. I just came out of, I didn't even just come out of, I'm like 2 years removed from a 7-year relationship, and like, he's so similar to my dad, and it was like what attracted me to him, but it's also like what I'm realizing is the red flags. And like, this episode was, I'm about to get emotional. This episode was necessary for me, because it was like, it was telling me, it told me to like remember the red flags. Because I think when you are in a relationship for so long, it's hard to walk away. It's just like what Uncle Clifford said, like, a bitch ain't gonna leave until a bitch is ready to leave. And like, me and my ex, we have been through so much together, and like, I love him, you know, I really love him, but if I'm honest, I have to like pay, like, just like this episode, I have to pay attention to the red flags. And it's just something in me that knows, like, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna, you know, like, even though we keep going back and forth and playing these games, and it was just like, this episode was just, it felt like it was telling me, like, be careful. Like, because do you want to wake up and like, now you're having a child with him, you're bringing a child in this world, like, and they have to live out, you know, that cycle of chaos all over again. And it's just like, you know, as lonely as I am, as much as I'm like, it'll probably be easier to just go back and fuck with him and be with him, it's like, I have to realize that if I want better, I have to choose better. I have to pay attention to the red flags, and I have to like let this part of my life go for good. And know that, you know, by me letting it go, like, God will deliver somebody better. And so, I just thank you for this episode. Like, as triggering as it was necessary, because it just told me, like, I can't keep playing. I don't want to end up in, I don't want to do this cycle. I would never want my kids to go through what I went through. And, this episode reminded me of that. And so I thank you again for another great episode. I didn't expect to even go there, but I'm trying not to cry. I'm really trying not to cry. But like, this episode was really a wake up call for me, and being like, come on, like, you don't want to like keep playing this game and like something actually end up happening. And so that's all I have. My predictions for this episode, moving forward. I feel like Big T, and I didn't talk about it before, but Big T and Little Murder has clearly been like going through something, and he has been in his feelings, and I don't know how that's gonna like work out. Like, I just feel like something gonna happen. I hope, you know, like, Big T don't go do no crazy shit, but I'm just worried about his emotional state and like how emotional he is. And then the last thing, like I was saying before, I do feel like maybe like Keyshawn couldn't leave for herself, but maybe she would leave for her dad. And so maybe we're going to learn like how Keyshawn is going to escape. And so that's going to be a whole story in itself. Okay. All right, y'all. That is all the messages I have for you. That's it for this review. If you made it to the end of this review, please give me a thumbs up. If you made it to the end of this review and you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Until we meet again, dream those dreams. Never let the internet rush you, and never ever let someone tell you what you cannot do. I have a ton of videos on here that speaks about how to consciously call love in, how to work through some of those daddy issues. So if you are interested in that, please make sure that you check out my catalog. I also have 2 articles on Honestly Sis, one called No One Is Gonna Save You, and the other one is Generational Issues, a generational trauma or generational patterns and something. It's a long title, but those 2 articles, I'm going to link them down below. If you want to just get some more information about how to work through that, how to transmute that emotional trauma, check it out. All right, y'all. I will see you in the next episode.